All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Filling Empty Buildings. I'm Brett Schwartz, an Associate Director at the NADO Research Foundation. This is the first installment of a three-part webinar series taking place this week and next called From Vacant to Vibrant, Strategies for Rural and Small Town Renewal. So thanks so much for joining us today. Hope you can participate in our upcoming sessions as well. So across the country, communities are grappling with vacant buildings, whether they're former retail spaces, homes, offices, or industrial sites. But behind every empty structure lies an opportunity to reimagine, to repurpose, and to reignite local communities. And today we're so happy to have Deb Brown from SaveYour.Town with us to explore creative, actionable ways to bring these buildings back to life and support local and regional economies. So I'll be quick and fly through some introductory slides before I turn things over to Deb, who just has a ton of great ideas and examples and images to share with you all today. So today's session and our webinar series is made available through the NADO Research Foundation's Economic Development District Community of Practice. The EDD CoP is funded through a cooperative agreement from the U.S. Economic Development Administration. We're a little over 5 years. We're a little over halfway through our 5-year program, which offers a wide range of training, researching, and networking opportunities for staff at the nation's 400+ economic development districts. I just want to point out a disclaimer at the bottom of the page, which states that the ideas and suggestions offered through our webinar and the EDD CoP at large do not necessarily reflect the views of EDA or the Department of Commerce. Now, I know many of you on the call today have been involved with different aspects of the CoP, so thanks again for your participation and support. Here, I just wanted to note the breadth of resources we have available, including webinars and publications on topics such as the SEDS, federal grants management, resilience and hazard mitigation, wealth creation, EDD tribal partnerships, and much more. So make sure to visit our website that's up on the screen, and I know Melissa's dropping in some links in the chat as well. But I also want to specifically call out a report that should be of interest, especially to this group, and that's Investing in Rural Downtowns, What Roles Are EDDs Playing, written by my colleague, Melissa Levy, who's on the call today and, of course, helping out in the chat. So Melissa's put together just a really fantastic resource that's packed with case studies and examples from across the country on different ways that EDDs and their partners can breathe new life into downtowns and main streets. So check out the link there when you get a chance. And one of the most powerful tools that we offer through the EDD CoP is connection. We've got a virtual peer learning groups. That's a space to share ideas, troubleshoot challenges, and just learn from each other doing similar work. So you can find more information and consider joining a group that aligns with your interests or region. We have a variety of cohorts, including those for new EDD staff, those for executive directors and a mentor group, and a handful focused on SEDS and wealth creation. And excited to announce, and this will be released shortly too, that we're going to be doing our next round of our SEDS peer exchange groups launching with a registration process on September 29th. So if you're looking to connect with peers working on the SEDS in a small group at your own pace, the SEDS peer exchange group is a great opportunity for you. So stay tuned for more information there. But of course, nothing beats meeting in person, and we'd love to see all of you in Salt Lake City next month for our annual training conference. This is a chance, of course, to meet face-to-face, hear from national experts and peers, and bring new ideas and examples to your communities. So our registration is open. We've just extended the early bird deadline a little bit longer, so you can learn more on the website, and hope to see you all in Salt Lake. And of course, to stay up to date on the latest news and webinars and resources, please subscribe to our weekly NADO News e-newsletter to stay in the loop if you haven't already. We're really committed to supporting your work and supporting the latest in economic development through this newsletter. And of course, we hope to see you at our following webinars next week. We've got 2 more coming up in the series. We've got one on innovative rural business models and self-supporting entrepreneurship. And you'll see the webinar links in the chat. And of course, the most popular question is always about, are we recording these webinars? We definitely are. We'll be recording these and sharing the slides towards the end of next week. They'll all be embedded on a single website, so you can access all these materials in one spot. So we're wrapping up next Thursday. So stay tuned for an email late next week with all the links, so you can share all this great information with your friends and colleagues. And speaking of questions, please type in those questions in the chat during Deb's presentation. We've protected plenty of time for conversation and discussion, so we hope to get as many those questions in as we can. And then, of course, please reach out to me if you have any questions about the Economic Development District Community of Practice, our general work at NADO. We are here for you. We're so thrilled to have an opportunity through the Community of Practice to really be flexible and creative and work with all the districts on the topics and interests that are important to all of you. So please be in touch and look forward to hearing from you. So, all right, let's get to it. Really happy to invite our guide, our trainer today, Deb Brown, who will be leading our webinar series this week and next. Deb is a friend of NADO's for many, many years, and we're always so glad to have her have a platform to be able to share her wisdom and expertise. Many of you know Deb, but just as a quick background, she's the co-founder of SaveYour.Town, which is an organization dedicated to helping small towns and rural communities thrive by empowering local residents to implement positive change using their own resources and ideas. And this is the best part, through practical, low-cost solutions. She's worked on many different efforts in 40 different counties around this country, across 14 states, which range from kind of one-day tour of empty buildings to week-long visits to thoroughly exploring assets and resources of a region. Deb has a really deep understanding of who we are on the call here as EDDs and economic development districts and our role in impacting communities. She was a featured speaker at our annual conference in New Orleans back in 2024. And also excited to announce she is the author of a new book, From Possibilities to Reality: Save Your Small Town with these uniquely doable ideas, projects, and success stories. So many of the stories and examples you'll be hearing today are featured in the book. So if you like what you hear, feel free to check it out. So with that, I'm really excited. I'm going to turn things over to you, to Deb, if you're able to share your screen. And thanks for taking us on this kind of virtual tour of how we can fill those empty buildings.
It's always fun changing things around, isn't it?
Passing the baton. There we go. Thanks, Deb.
All right. Rural communities across America have too many empty buildings. We know that. These spaces aren't just eyesores. They hold back economic growth and community life. And we know the longer buildings sit empty, the more they deteriorate and the more renovation costs grow. We can take immediate action instead of waiting for the perfect permanent solution. The following ideas you'll hear today can help create activity right now, test ideas, and build towards lasting change. Look at some numbers. Maybe. Sorry, guys. Went too fast. There we go. I'll get it yet. So leaving buildings empty really does hurt neighborhoods. And you can see vacancy in one building raises the chance that the nearby businesses are going to close too. And that's by about 8%. Property values drop 10 to 20% because a vacant storefront makes surrounding properties harder to sell or lease. And that causes that domino effect. Tax revenue goes down, safety issues rise, maintenance costs add up, and everyone's perception of downtown simply gets worse. Every year we wait, it gets more expensive to fix. The best revitalization strategy: use the buildings you already have instead of waiting for more meetings or new construction. Every empty building is an opportunity. Temporary uses like pop-ups create energy, show what's possible, and attract attention. Columbiana, Ohio had a building downtown with this boarded up window. Everybody complained about it, but no one asked the owner why it was boarded up and not fixed. I asked, and he explained he was waiting for a new tenant so he could build it out to spec. That's awesome. The city manager hired a local artist to paint a scene on the window for a couple of $100. The artist did his work during a festival downtown, and people came with their lawn chairs to watch him work and also to tour the building. That building soon filled and, of course, had a new window. Porterdale, Georgia population 1,200 people, had a downtown historic community center with a gym that burned, sat empty for a long time, and became really the eyesore in the middle of downtown. This mess sat and looked awful, and it really didn't represent who they were. Instead of letting it rot, the town stabilized the outer brick and repurposed it as an event space. Now it's a venue for concerts, festivals, and weddings. The project's $950,000 cost was paid for entirely by proceeds from a special purpose local option sales tax. Great way to spend sales tax money. Let's see pop-ups as strategic experiments, not second best choices. They help us try new ideas, build momentum, and solve problems as we go. For example, Hamilton County Animal Advocates in Webster City, Iowa, used pop-ups at events and locations around town for animal education and adoptions. That helped them find their market and led to renting an empty building for a permanent home. Pop-ups help people find out if their ideas have real market demand without risky investments. So let them try their business ideas out. Give your entrepreneurs a chance. This building was for sale, and they allowed this pop-up to happen during a fall event. The creator of these products had a great idea. She wanted to sell her handmade products and was considering using this building that was for sale. However, after the 3-day event that she had popped up at, she found out she did not want a full-time business. She sold out and realized she couldn't make enough product to sell by herself on a regular basis. You know, that could have been a disaster for her business and her investment in the building if she'd bought it. Instead, she still makes product on her own schedule and sells it in other retail locations around town. Pop-up markets don't need fancy renovations. Dylan Fulton and Camden Bretling are 2 high school students, and they heard Becky McCrae and I speak about using sheds for temporary businesses. The boys then went back home to Miller, South Dakota, and began putting a plan in action. They invited several entrepreneurs to join in the fun during their month-long Christmas event, hosted in garden sheds. Each pop-up event generates foot traffic and community excitement that spills over to neighboring businesses. You can see the ripple effect of that positive activity. And the beauty of this approach is that each successful activation does build momentum and confidence for the next one, creating that positive cycle of community engagement. It brought new life downtown, started 3 new businesses, and got local kids involved. These little wins matter. They build momentum for the whole town. The businesses got the opportunity to test the market and determine how many people bought their product. It was an opportunity to learn what did not work and correct it for the next small test. The businesses weren't required to invest large amounts of money either. A large benefit of this business was that 3 of those businesses that participated got their tax licenses and formed official businesses. Miller, South Dakota, population about 1,400 people, now has 3 new businesses. That's a big deal. And the businesses are a retail arts and furniture restoration store, and they teach classes, a baker of cookies and baked goods, and a festive photo booth that's owned and run by a 7th grader. Another benefit to the community is that local students got involved in growing their community, actively involved, not just saying we should do this and then expecting the adults to do it. I encourage you to get your kids involved. Let them try out their ideas. Let them learn the process of starting a business by taking those small steps first. This allows them to become invested in the community and eventually encourages them to return to a place they love. The single best strategy to fill empty buildings is to divide the buildings up. Shared spaces allows entrepreneurs to test retail concepts with minimal investment before committing to long-term leases and major renovations. These temporary setups become real-world laboratories where business owners can experiment with different display styles and layouts and merchandise mixes to see what resonates with their customers. This is Cops Commons in Napanee, Indiana. It's an old factory that used to make Hoover cabinets and has 100,000 square feet of space that sat empty for years. Cops Common now has event spaces, retail spaces, and food spaces. And there's still room for more entrepreneurs. Shared spaces allow small businesses to test new ideas with very little risk. Now, owners can start small and, if successful, eventually expand and even buy their own buildings. This keeps costs down and creates a supportive environment for new growth. Cops Commons didn't wait for the entire building to be filled up either. They opened with just a few stores inside, and it has grown and continues to do so. The village, this is make a space that multiple businesses can divide and share. The village in Washington, Iowa was an old department store, J.C. Penney's, and sat empty for years until a group of women got together and decided to create a shared spaces location. They have owners that can fit their craft and jewelry items on a small table, one owner that takes up the back wall with a bookstore, and all sizes in between. And many of these shared space owners have gone on to buy empty buildings in town and expand their businesses. Not every business needs year-round space. A building in Roscommon County, Michigan, is used for boat storage in winter, then divided for small businesses and crafters in the summer. So this brings continuous life. It matches business cycles. It gives owners steady, reliable rental income. So consider the vacant buildings in your community. How might they accommodate different seasonal businesses that could complement rather than compete with each other? Take a look and maybe create a simple seasonal business calendar that shows complementary businesses that could share space throughout the year. Think about the holiday gift shops, tax preparation service, summer recreation equipment, fall harvest market. The list goes on and on. Beyond traditional retail, there are countless creative approaches to bringing empty buildings back to life. These creative activations often require even less investment than pop-up retail, while still generating community engagement and interest. Each creative use strengthens those community bonds and also creates gathering spaces that encourage residents to stay and invest in their hometown. So let's explore some innovative approaches that communities across the country have used successfully. Cord McMahon, pictured here, graduated college with an arts degree and decided he would just keep working at the vet where he worked part-time during school, until one of his teachers asked why he even went to school. Because in her town, there was a chance to learn how to run a retail shop, create lots of art, and do the work you love. Now, this building, the building owner had an appliance shop in part of the building, a repair shop in the back, and this street-facing area was empty. He donated the use of this building and utilities for a 6-month artist residency program. All they had to do was ask him. Cord worked with the chamber to learn marketing. He worked with young students on a week-long daytime program. He used part of the space for his studio, and he took commission assignments from local people who wanted the images of their dogs turned into art they could hang on their wall. Walls are ready to go assets. You can hang art, rent wall space, make buildings lively again while supporting your local artist. This model turns vacant spaces into galleries until permanent tenants are ready. Now, in this empty space, it was inside a coffee shop in a store in Minnesota. I think it was Watertown, Minnesota. They used the wall to feature photos from a local home-based photographer until they could rent this entire space out. That's cross-pollination. 2 different businesses bringing in customers to be able to use both businesses. Even if you can't use the inside, the front windows are valuable. Rent display space to other businesses or create simple seasonal window displays. Now, this improves your streetscape and can bring in a little income too. This approach transforms the public face of vacant buildings from symbols of decline into engaging visual elements that actually contribute to a vibrant streetscape. The owner of this building uses it for storage, but he has cleaned up the front display space and is renting it to another business not downtown, and it gives them a downtown presence. Seasonal window displays, they're a low-cost way to make empty buildings look lively. These displays attract attention and they show off community pride. So get your local clubs, your youth, or your schools involved. They love to see their work brighten up Main Street. Imagine young students working with the seniors at the nursing home who can teach them how to make these snowflakes. And then they could add their name, and that would drive parents and grandparents downtown to see the artwork. And that creates more foot traffic. Involving many people in small but meaningful ways gives them all a stake in their community, and it drives pride too. Don't overlook your outdoor spaces. The fastest way to activate a property may just be as simple as adding seating, planners, or basic art. In Belle Fourche, South Dakota, a few benches and plants change the whole feel of downtown. You know, outdoor projects need less code approval and tend to bring people together. Simple elements like seating areas, planters, and shade structures can transform your empty lots or building exteriors into inviting community gathering places. For those more ambitious projects, like Pullman, Washington's expanded sidewalk project, it made room for outdoor seating. And these outdoor activations really create gatherings places that strengthen the social bonds while signaling investment and care in some previously neglected areas. Make your empty lot more comfy and home-like. Hold conversations there. This was a temporary art community project in Lyons, Nebraska. Now I can just see the mayor or a city council member maybe hold an opening visiting time every month here. It's a great ways to use that empty lot. And what else could you do in your empty lot? Think temporary, not permanent, because nothing has to be forever. Try all the ideas and find the ones people like. This tiny park in Palouse, Washington highlights that beautiful ghost sign, and it also has a bench and some lovely flowers. Think about what else they could do there. Bravo to them for making it as beautiful as it is, and now let's help them use it. Empty lots can become public art spaces. Albany, Georgia converted a bare wall and roofless lot into the art park, and it's full of murals and graffiti. They asked their youth to put graffiti up, and it has brought visitors and created a community identity. Now it has become a microbrewery. And do you think they bought it because of the art? Maybe, but I bet the art helped make the decision a little easier to move there. Public art creates a distinctive identity for communities, and it provides engaging experiences that draw people to previously avoided areas. Makes it safer. Klamath Falls, Oregon took a multi-dimensional approach with colorful murals and suspended bird sculptures, and they create that visual interest at different levels. Now, these art parks preserve architectural heritage while demonstrating adaptability, creativity, and they send a powerful message about your community's values. So your advantages are here, you're turning blank walls into vibrant canvases. It's a place to showcase your cultural expression. And of course, the photo opportunities are out of this world. And when people come together, it strengthens your community identity. Don't wait for the big win. Start with small projects that you can finish quickly. Each one builds confidence, creates momentum, and shows what's possible. The key to sustainable revitalization is starting with projects small enough to accomplish quickly, but meaningful enough to matter. But what about those buildings that need work? Well, some buildings need a lot of work before they can be used, but many barriers are things like policy and financial or regulatory, not just physical. So let's explore proven approaches that communities have used to encourage investment in existing buildings rather than letting them deteriorate. And these strategies complement the temporary activation approaches we've already discussed, and they create pathways from short-term use to that sustainable long-term occupancy. Regular building codes make it hard to reuse older spaces. Adaptive reuse codes or adaptive reuse zoning, like Tucson's, make it possible to turn old gas stations or factories into cafes or shops. This keeps historic buildings alive and active instead of vacant. Traditional building codes often create those insurmountable barriers when trying to repurpose your older structures for new uses. Adaptive reuse programs create special provisions that make it financially feasible to retrofit historic commercial buildings while maintaining safety. And these programs help recover neighborhoods and support local businesses by reducing that regulatory burden for building rehabilitation. Now, Tucson demonstrated this approach by transforming a former gas station into a thriving restaurant, a conversion that would have been prohibitively expensive under standard codes. Offer incentives that actually address renovation barriers, like code compliance or facade repair. Sioux City, Iowa turned a historic Carnegie Library into needed apartments by targeting incentives to help get the project moving. So instead of only having incentives for recruiting new business, consider incentives to address the specific cost of compliance. Your traditional business recruitment incentives, they often miss the mark because they don't address the specific barriers that prevent building reuse. Effective incentive programs target the actual challenges of renovation, like code compliance costs, facade improvements, or infrastructure updates. So when developing incentive programs, focus on building renovation rather than only business recruitment, recognizing that usable spaces are prerequisites for business development. Set your clear standards for property upkeep inside and out. Small towns like Callender and Stanhope, Iowa, created new property codes to keep buildings from falling apart. And these standards protect everybody's investment. I like it because it sets forth a detailed plan of action, fine structure, and that no nonsense, do this or we'll take your building from you attitude. York, Pennsylvania has handouts for their property maintenance codes, and that's a great idea. Now, this is just the first page of one. Without clear standards for building upkeep, it's difficult to prevent deterioration that eventually makes renovation impossible. While some property owners, they initially may resist new regulations, but clear standards actually create more predictable conditions for investment and development. Vacant building registries. So along with escalating fees, give owners a reason to improve, sell, or lease their buildings. Centerville, South Dakota successfully implemented fees for vacant properties that increased the longer a building remained empty. It encouraged owners to take action. That fee got bigger. Fayetteville, North Carolina added a safety component by requiring fire department inspections every 6 months, and that addressed both appearance and hazard concerns. Beyond just enforcement, these registries also generate a little revenue that can be directed towards your downtown revitalization efforts. I was in a small town in Ohio, Paulding, walking around with a group of people. We talked about ideas for the buildings, the ones that were empty, and how to spice up their events. And during the walk around, one guy said, "Oh, look, there's so-and-so." He's got several empty buildings in town. And I responded with, well, let's go talk to him. You should have seen the looks on their faces. Nevertheless, I went over and I introduced myself. We walked 2 blocks to this building that was empty, and he chatted all the way with me. He said he felt like no one ever talked to him and asked what he wanted. He said that the city wouldn't let him open a restaurant because there was going to be another one right across the street. Now, he didn't think that was fair, so he stopped taking care of his building. That was over 20 years ago. I listened to him and we found a way to help him move forward. He really just needed to be heard and his opinion to be validated. And the most important thing that happened is the folks on the tour with me got involved in the conversation as well. And they began building a better relationship with him. The foundation of successful building revitalization is not construction. It's connection with the people who own and might use these spaces, not just building owners and shop owners. Listen to the people in your community as well. When you give people the opportunity to try their ideas out, you don't need to know if it's going to be successful. The best ideas will be. Help them get started. Everything we discussed today isn't theoretical. These are practical approaches that communities just like yours have successfully implemented. In this picture on the left is the Chickasaw Cultural Center, and they have one shelving unit that offers canned and packaged goods for sale. On the other side, Mary Hodson, former chamber director, wrote a children's book, Good Morning Hutchinson, with the proceeds that support the chamber's spa business projects in Hutchinson, Minnesota. And she pops up at events all over her town. So it's worth repeating. Creating temporary pop-up spaces generates immediate community activity, and it provides low-risk testing grounds for potential permanent businesses. Each successful activation builds momentum for the next project, and that creates a positive cycle of revitalization that really grows organically. McKee, Kentucky, population 500, had a craft show at the same time as a car show. That's cross-pollination at its finest. Trendy Vindy are a couple of artists that make small art, and then they put them in a vending machine for sale. Altus, Oklahoma has this lovely mural in an alley that makes you not even notice the air conditioning unit. Beautification helps people see possibilities, and it's a good way to see more momentum. There are 11 different businesses in this shared space in Colfax, Washington, and they've been there about 5 years. And now changes are happening. One bakery is moving to the small town where they live. 2 of the smaller businesses in this are expanding with her and getting more room in her space. One business is expanding to its own location, and 2 others are moving to a larger shared space. You know, that's the cycle of revitalization, and they are growing organically, leaving room for other entrepreneurs to try their ideas out. These actions will create a positive feedback loop that strengthens your rural market appeal, transforming empty buildings from liabilities into community assets. If you'd like to read more about rural challenges and solutions, you can sign up for our free weekly newsletter at SaveYour.Town/sign up. I'd like to thank you all for being here today. And now we're going to the fun stuff. We're going to have some questions, hopefully.
Yeah, Deb. Well, listen, thank you so much for the presentation. I always walk away feeling inspired by the examples you share and really just kind of the asset-based frame that you bring and looking at these places and the assets they bring rather than that kind of liability perspective. So thank you for that. A lot of food for thought from what you shared. And it looks like we've got some questions already in the chat. So I encourage you to drop them in. We've got plenty of time to get through these and some more. But let's kick things off. So Ryan, thanks for your question. Said, these are great examples with motivated business owners. What do you do if the building owner isn't motivated to change? We heard a little bit about this. For example, the building owner is okay letting their unoccupied building deteriorate. And Deb, I would just add on to that question too about owners that, maybe absentee, out of the community, out of the country, perhaps. What are some strategies for addressing some of those kind of hard to connect with owners that might be creating some challenges for you?
So for the owners that are out of the country and you just don't see them, decorate their windows at Christmas time, paint the windows during homecoming. They're not there to say anything. Sweep the sidewalks, clean the windows. It's amazing what that does to a building. And people start making phone calls to those building owners asking, what are you doing? What's going on over there? Um, I, there are some people in towns that are like that, right? That don't, for many different reasons, don't want to take care of their buildings. Some have run out of money. Some only use it for storage or a tax write-off. You have to work with the willing, first of all. And as that momentum grows, as you see more buildings being used, then they start to pay attention. Then they start to ask, what are you doing over there? Wait a minute. And find solutions. If they're using it for a tax write-off, what's a solution for that owner? What can they do differently? How can, I don't know the solution to it, but I know when people come together and talk about stuff, they can make things happen. Brett, I bet NADO has some solutions for that too, huh?
Well, I know we're exploring that. I want to put Melissa on the spot here too. Melissa, of course, who wrote our great report on kind of Main Street opportunities for districts. Melissa, if you're willing to hop on for a moment just to kind of share perhaps what your research is and what you're kind of exploring around this topic. Would love to hear that for the group.
Yeah, I mean, I am actually exploring this kind of vacant space idea and more to the point of Ryan's question, actually, of like, what do you do with those difficult owners? And it's a lot of the things that Deb has already mentioned, the code enforcement and the incentives and the registries and all of that. So it's nice to hear that corroborated. Yeah, and I guess I question there are always going to be difficult landowners who just don't want to. I mean, I think you can try with all of those things to kind of price them out potentially and just make them want to leave potentially if the stick is too hard, you know. But yeah, I guess I don't know how hard it needs to be for them to want to just either do something or get out of that space. So, yeah.
Just like the guy in Ohio that refused to do anything to his buildings. Turns out he only needed to be heard. So
Right.
figure out a way to make those conversations happen. Have a visit, invite them for coffee or a beer, whatever the case may be. Pick up the telephone and call, make an appointment. Don't just show up on their doorstep. Start to make relationships, build relationships. And when you start small, when you do things like maybe a pop-up on the street in front of the building, that's a small step that brings attention to that building.
I do think having the conversation is probably, I think we don't do that, right? I mean, I think in our communities we don't, those seem like scary conversations to have, but ultimately it is helpful to understand where they're coming from and why they're doing what they're doing. So yeah, there are some
Yeah.
other questions though.
Yeah, we think we have those conversations, but we really don't. We just drive by and go, I gotta call that guy.
Mhm.
Wiley wants to know what kind of insurance is required or suggested when others are using a building for short-term pop-up use. It's a question we get on almost every call. First of all, I think probably the building has to have insurance for that already, don't you think? So there's that idea. Another idea that I've seen used in small towns, check if you're doing an event, check with the event organizers to see if they have insurance. Often they'll have a rider that covers that particular event. I know chambers do, being a former chamber director. Or partner with a local insurance agent, give them a lot of free love and promotion at your event, and see if they'll sponsor the insurance. It's not as much as you think it is. Never is.
Yeah, and I just want to thank Karen for dropping in a few links into the chat as well. Up in Cambridge, Massachusetts, Graffiti Alley, a great example of public art. I just taken a look at some of those photos. It reminds me of Art Alley in Rapid City, South Dakota. So just this kind of blank canvas that's constantly changing and evolving is really public art at its finest. I think you go back each week and you never know what you're going to see next. Karen also dropped in, looks like some information around the Vacant Storefront Initiative in Cambridge as well as a good model. So thank you, Karen, for
Yeah,
sharing those
definitely. Thank you.
resources.
Everybody save those links and take a
Yeah.
look.
And we'll certainly share all of these on that kind of landing page at the end of the webinar series as well. So Deb, do you see some of the other questions here? There's another one from Wiley. Yeah.
Yeah, he wants to know what starter rents are. I can't tell you. It varies from place to place. But if you take like the place in Washington, I think they had 11 businesses in there, and I think they were each paying maybe $75 a month. It was not a lot. It was affordable. And I've seen some, I mean, I'm pretty sure Cops Common is a little bit more than that, because you can see by the size of the entrepreneurs that are in there that they're selling more and they have more availability to funds to pay that. It all depends on what the owner's asking. And how can you have a conversation with that building owner? What do they want to do? Have they ever wanted to be an entrepreneur? How can you get them a little spot to showcase what they want to do or their grandkids want to do? Just keep talking and building relationships. Jordan, how do you get buy-in from a town council, IDA, or board of supervisors? Good question. Be nice to them. And frankly, what do you need it for? To have pop-ups and to have events and to do some of those small steps? You really don't need it. When it comes to fines and creating compliance codes and stuff, that's a different discussion, but you just have to start it. Find out what they want. Maybe they don't see what the real deal is. What is the problem? You know, when you start looking, Donovan Ripkema said, the cost of an empty building to a community each year is $400,000. Those kind of numbers make a difference. That's what you want to share with your elected officials. And was it primarily private dollars or grants? Oh, there's no money from the federal government. There's just not, especially for for-profit businesses. And not just the federal, across the board, funding is kind of interesting. But private funding, again, if you're starting off small, not that big a deal. Really not that big a deal because you're doing smaller stuff. And along the way, you're building your base and you're building investment ideas and interest from other people. Oh, I like this. Barb said, engage your local garden clubs and FFAs for city beautification. That's a whole nother webinar, beautification, because there's so much that you can do. That's for sure. All right. Josiah asked the hard question. What have been successful strategies for finding building owners? Some can be elusive, and connecting them to people interested in using the buildings. I'll give you an example. In Webster City, Iowa, my first week on the job as chamber director, the movie theater closed. It was literally the straw that broke the camel's back. Electrolux had left 2 years earlier to go to Mexico, and it was a company town. Everybody was really up in arms and just, it was horrible. But a group of us just gathered and said, what can we do to save the movie theater? The building was for sale for, I think it was $30,000, not a lot. They didn't care about the business. It was the building. The Wells Fargo Bank had taken over that loan, whatever was on it. And now the building was up for sale. And we just couldn't, we formed a 501c3. And we were having trouble finding anybody at Wells Fargo that would talk to us. And I had this idea because I'm a marketer at heart. Their home office is in San Francisco. So I found out who the head of marketing was and sent that person an email. And I called his gatekeeper, which is the secretary, and said, hey, I just sent him an email. This is what I said. I thought I'd let you know. what's going on in the community. We don't want to talk badly about Wells Fargo, but my golly, we will if we have to. And we got a call the next day, and they donated half the cost of that building to our project, and we bought the other half. So it's, who's in charge? Who's really in charge? Sometimes, if it's, you might have to find the spouse of the person and find out what's going on. I know another couple where the husband was having dementia. Him and his wife were building owners. So we went, and it was a well-kept secret, not a well-kept secret. And so we talked with the wife and worked through some things. So again, it's building relationships and connections and having those conversations and small steps. They really matter. It doesn't have to be you doing all the work because it won't all get done. Get your friends, your family, your people that care about your community involved. Somebody knows a building owner, somebody knows them and knows that they used to play football back in 1956. And wouldn't it be cool if their building could have football memorabilia on it? I mean, that seems like a stretch, but it's really not. Work your people, see what they know.
Thanks,
Did I
Deb.
get them all?
Yeah, it looks like we might have missed one from Oliver here on farmers markets. So Oliver asked, any suggestions in unifying multiple farmers markets in a small town into a centralized location on your downtown or main street?
How many farmers markets are we talking about? I like the idea of having 3 farmers markets. Are they all on different days, Oliver?
That's 3. Yep.
3. So if you have one on Monday, one on Wednesday, one on Saturday, they only have 2 to 3 people. Well, figure out how to get them more people. First of all, it is not a bad idea to have 3 farmers markets if you can help them build up their vendors and who's there. Expand it from just food and perhaps add artists there. I've seen that be very successful. Talk to your local CSAs. There's always someone relatively close to you that are looking for a place to give information about what it is they do. Don't set up tables and people hand out flyers, because what happens is you take it and you throw it on the ground and somebody's got to come back and pick it up. So don't do that kind of thing. Make it more engaging. Flowers, cut flowers. Are they doing cut flowers? Who in town has a lot of flowers in their gardens that they'd love to make arrangements? I've seen that happen in Colorado and be very successful. Who knew that people wanted their cut flowers, right? Local musicians. Good job, Corey. Invite local musicians. They love having a place to play. You're absolutely right. Don't tell anybody no. Invite as many people as you can. And as I said before, the good ideas will float to the top. Skim them right off, just like milk and cream.
Thanks, Deb. I guess I have a question for you. I appreciate you mentioning kind of incorporating the youth and young people into these conversations. And I think, in many communities that have had, disinvestment for so long, or vacant main streets and downtowns, this young generation has never kind of seen what a thriving downtown or main street looks like, right? They might have heard stories from their parents or grandparents about, what it was like to go downtown, on a Friday night to the movie theater and other places that you mentioned. But their lived experience now is just, downtown has been vacant or boarded up, or that structure has been dilapidated for years. So just curious about, if you've seen some good strategies, you mentioned a few today, but of engaging young people in kind of the visioning process about what the future can look like and really getting them involved in kind of setting.
In Ontario, they have a entrepreneurial project called SUP. It's SSUP, and I can't tell you what it stands for right now, but they work throughout the year with their students to help them become entrepreneurs. And it's regular coursework, and there's money invested by the locals. And now they get to sell their products during event and during pop-up strategies. And what you're doing when you work with students, we're really good at following what they do with sports and on the ground activities, but we kind of suck at getting them in the community. So finding ways to bring them into the community is so important. So help them be entrepreneurs. I mean, it works. We know that it works. It's a good place to invest. If you've got $500 to invest, that's a good 5 prizes for a group of entrepreneurs, right? Your SBDC, your chamber, your economic development folks usually want to have a hand in that game because it's important. Those are our next generation of businesses. Jenna said to make connections with university and student clubs. Ding, 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 good idea. Find a place to have them. Rebecca said at their events, they require agencies that in the past only handed out flyers to provide an interactive activity for kids instead. Brilliant idea. We had Building Families, an organization, made Superman capes. They had the cutout for the capes and the kids could come and paint on them. And then they all wore it around at the event. There were so many people at that particular booth. It was perfect. And parents with them, and they learned more about the Building Families, what they do and the activities they're involved in. I kind of jumped away from what we were talking about earlier, but there's so many questions.
Well, Susan's asking if you can talk again about the fee charged for vacant spaces to owners.
So in Centerville, South Dakota, I want you to write that down. Jared, Jared Hybertson, it's Hybertson. Look him up. He's the one that did it there. I told him I was going to give his name out because they created this fee structure and it's been pretty successful. And he'll walk you through. I mean, when you first start, it's got to be kind of like a warning, you know, if you're not charging money right away. It's a conversation like, here's what we're doing. And this is how it's going to work. And what do you need for help? How can we help you get this building up to speed like you need, and then help them? Don't just force stuff on them. They're in your community too. And then you gradually build it up, and that's decided by somebody smarter than me.
Excellent, Deb. Well, thank you so much. We're coming up on the hour, and I want to thank you again so much for a really great presentation and Q&A. But also in the remaining time, Deb, I want to give you a chance to maybe give a snapshot of what to expect in our webinars next week. So we'll be talking about innovative rural business models on Tuesday, and then self-supporting entrepreneurship on Thursday. And I know we touched a little bit on some of these themes, but what can we expect in those upcoming webinars?
So the innovative rural business models, there are 5 of them: tiny, temporary, together, traveling, and tech. And we're going to share stories about each one of those models and how well they work. Much like you heard today, same kind of thing. Here's the model, here's how it works, and here's how you can try it in your community. If I tell you any more, we might as well do it, right? And entrepreneurs, you know, that's a key word these days. I'm trying to think of it, the ecosystem for entrepreneurs, right? Though that's the keyword section. And we're going to talk about how entrepreneurs can work better together to create the kind of businesses and community that they want. And again, always sharing stories.
Wonderful, Deb. Well, thank you so much for that. I just saw one more chat here. Paige dropped a great example about a commercial building improvement program for vacant buildings in Borger, Texas. So thank you so much for dropping the link in there too. And again, we are really trying to collect these great examples. Deb's done a phenomenal job over the years but if there's things happening on the ground in your community, we'd love to be able to share them. If there's things happening at your organization, at your district, or partners are working on. You've heard about some of the research Melissa's currently conducting. There's a lot out there. So we're trying to figure out what are these best practices, what's replicable, right? And what can be shared across our network. So really appreciate all these great examples here in the chat. We'll make sure to link to those on the final page.
And Brett, frankly, this is where the magic happens when we share with each other, because one person doesn't know everything. I thank you. And if you ever want to email me your stuff that you're doing, I'd love to see it and hear it.
Great. So yeah, we're starting a conversation over this week and next around these themes. And again, just trying to provide a little dose of inspiration. I know I certainly received that from you, Deb, today. So excited for next week's discussions. If you haven't signed up yet, please do. We've got the registration, the link, and on our website as well. But I think with that, we're probably going to get back to our day. Appreciate you all being here. There'll be a quick, when you log out, a quick survey of sorts. Should take 30 seconds, no more. Just give us a little bit of feedback on this presentation, also what type of themes and topics you'd like to see explored in future webinars and case studies and presentations. That's what we're all about here at the Community of Practice, is to be responsive to what you're working on. So with that, hope to see you all next Tuesday, same time, same place. Well, not quite, different link, so make sure you register separately, but we'll see you on Tuesday for our continuing webinar series. So thanks again, and have a great rest of the week. Thanks, Deb.
Thank you.